Nationals ace MacKenzie Gore made it very clear yesterday that he wants to win, and he also made it very clear that it starts up top.
You are Locked On Nationals, your daily Washington Nationals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And yes, I'm your host, Ryan Clary, your Nationals insider here on the Locked On Nationals podcast. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every single day. And later on in today's show, we've got a discussion surrounding names to watch out for. And the Nationals have conducted yet another interview, and I hit subscribe to that because I like that interview, and we'll tell you who that is, but also a couple more names to watch as the Nationals might be hiring their new GM. Checks the watch any second now. So stay tuned for that later on in the show today. And now we start off discussing with MacKenzie Gore and kind of what he had to say yesterday about the Washington Nationals. And honestly, it shines some light into true transparency within this organization. It's exactly what needed to be said. But today's episode is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Enough with boring, flavorless caffeine. It's time to give your caffeine a flavor upgrade with 5 Hour Energy shots. Go to www.5hourenergy.com or Amazon today. Again, that is www.5hourenergy.com or Amazon today. So we get started discussing what MacKenzie Gore had to say yesterday, because quite frankly, you do not get a transparent answer like this a lot of times from players. And quite frankly, this is exactly what the Nationals needed by one of their star players, their all-star in 2025. And MacKenzie Gore provided that yesterday on 106.7 The Fan. He was on with Grant and Danny for what is now his weekly appointment with the show. And the quote that was pretty damning by a lot of people, and that has actually been picked up by MLB Network. A lot of different pundits out there have been discussing this. This is what MacKenzie Gore had to say. Quote, "As a player, I just want to get the most out of everybody in the clubhouse. And I think that starts from the front office. And I think that's something we haven't necessarily done the past few years. We haven't won enough games, and it has been frustrating." End quote. That is what we call leadership. This is not MacKenzie Gore calling out the front office in a poor way. This is not MacKenzie Gore dragging the front office under the bus and saying, listen, it's not on us, it's on them. But even then, if you kind of read between the lines, that's kind of what he's insinuating here, and he is right. If you look around the Washington Nationals right now, compared to what they once were back a few years ago, compared to what they are now, they are a little bit of a dumpster fire. There is no hiding that at this time. MacKenzie Gore has finally kind of said the quiet part out loud. And he was 100% right in doing just that. Everything starts at the top from this team. Forget the baseball operations for a second. It starts with ownership. It trickles down to the baseball operations. Then it goes down to the coaching staff. And then it goes down to the players. I've always stood by this one thing. If nothing matters, then nothing matters. Pretty damning, right? If the Nationals and this ownership says, you know what? Well, if we don't have that equipment, then it's fine. Nothing matters. What matters to you then? When you have your all-star player kind of calling you guys out a little bit here, I think that is a good thing. This is not a broken clubhouse thing. This is not him calling out Davey Martinez or Miguel Cairo. He is not naming any names. He is saying the loud part, the quiet part out loud. And quite frankly, it was refreshing. MacKenzie Gore is a competitor. I've seen a lot of people out there this season saying, I don't like James Wood's body language. I don't like CJ Abrams and his body language. I don't like Luis Garcia Jr. and his body language. If this was Luis Garcia Jr. making this quote, then yeah, we can kind of talk about it and decipher it a little bit. Have you ever questioned MacKenzie Gore in the product that he puts out there every 5 days? Have you ever sat there and said, I don't think MacKenzie Gore is giving it his all. Not one soul has ever said that. That guy lives and dies with every pitch and is always on to the next one. In fact, I would probably like to see him step back a little bit and, maybe just be MacKenzie Gore and not be this fiery guy out there on the mound. That guy tries. So for him to say something meaningful like this, kind of, saying that everything starts at the top, that is something to me. And again, with new leadership expected to be coming to town here, they have to realize this. These players have not had real development. This team and this ownership in this baseball operations field has completely fumbled the ball on developing their players. You're seeing guys like right now, Brady House. He should be a star player. You look at guys like Roman Anthony with the Boston Red Sox, the same kind of age and even actually younger than Brady House. He's a stud. Dylan Cruz, while he has improved as of recent, he should be putting up all-star caliber numbers, and he is not. We have the talent. What we don't have is the development factor that a lot of other organizations out there do have. So MacKenzie Gore kind of saying that I think the front office, it starts with them, and it's something we haven't necessarily done the last few years, getting the most out of everybody in this clubhouse. He's absolutely right. This Nationals team has had talent. We have talked about this for years now. This Nationals team has always had talent. They have had first-round picks, but they have yet to develop that talent. Even when they make their way through the minors, you look at guys and you're like, well, Carter Kieboom, a former top 10 prospect in baseball, completely fell flat once he got to the bigs. Guys like CJ Abrams, kind of worried about his production overall. He goes real high and then he goes real low real quick. James Wood for his first full season. He's kind of been struggling in the second half. There's no questions about it. I think with a real operation here in town, a real productive kind of analytical general manager that could really just turn things around, that is when real change will happen. And I also think, while we're at it, new ownership. Of course that will help. But I'm not going to sit here today and every single day and say, guys, nothing matters until ownership changes. That's obviously an issue. But you can prevent bad ownership. The Tampa Bay Rays, terrible ownership. They've been able to develop talent. The Pittsburgh Pirates, terrible ownership. They've been able to kind of develop some talent. You have options here. So the owners are terrible is argument. I agree with you. It's a problem. It is a real thing that a lot of people have to figure out. But that's also kind of inexcusable at this rate. You can still develop talent. And that is exactly what MacKenzie Gore is talking about here. They have not gotten the most from the players in this clubhouse. They have not produced top edge kind of talent in order to help this team win over the last few seasons. They have failed to produce a ton of talent. And that is on the baseball operations staff. So what MacKenzie Gore yesterday, what he said, I absolutely agree with. And I think it's something that I think a lot of people probably are thinking in the back of their minds. And I think it, quite frankly, is also that this team needs change. The players want change. MacKenzie Gore, he's a winner. The difference is between guys like Brady House and Dalen Lyle and Luis Garcia Jr. compared to guys like MacKenzie Gore, James Wood, CJ Abrams. The latter guys, Abrams, Gore, and Wood, they have seen what a winning organization does. They have seen an ownership go all in and trade for a Juan Soto. They have seen them pay Xander Bogaerts a ton of money. They have seen them pay Manny Machado a ton of money. They know what it's like to have an organization that develops and that goes all in. They have tasted that a little bit. So for them to say that about this team right now that really does neither of those things, That means a lot. And I do believe that this will hit home for hopefully the ownership group here in town, but also just Nationals fans in general. We needed some true serum. MacKenzie Gore provided that yesterday for you, saying that as a player, I just want to get the most out of everybody in the clubhouse. I think that starts from the front office. I think that's something we haven't necessarily done the past few years. We haven't won enough games, and it's been frustrating. You're absolutely right, MacKenzie Gore. Way to go. I'm not going to say he called them out, but he said the quiet part out loud again. Way to go on that. You're absolutely right. And quite frankly, more players should speak candidly like he did in yesterday's interview with the Grant and Danny Show on 106.7 The Fan. So next, let's talk about this, though, because speaking of new leadership here in town, the Nationals are looking for their next GM. It feels as if it will not be Mike DiBartolo, but they have interviewed yet another man for the job. But also, there's a guy to keep an eye on that we have not discussed. I'll tell you all about that and more after this. And yes, let me tell you guys about some of our very good friends over at 5 Hour Energy. And caffeine just got a flavor upgrade. 5 Hour Energy shots deliver tasty caffeine in 17 bold flavors. Each 2-ounce shots packs a caffeine of a premium 12-ounce cup of coffee, plus B vitamins and nutrients with zero sugar and zero crashes. What I love most is how portable they are. Big taste, tiny shot. You can take it anywhere and get that boost when you need it. I always reach for my favorite flavor of the lime because it's refreshing and gives me that quick lift before a busy day. And I've been eyeing all new flavors as well, and it sounds like the perfect ones to try next with our friends at 5 Hour Energy. And honestly, I love how fast it kicks in because it's sugar-free, so I don't have to worry about crashing later. So everybody get with our friends at 5 Hour Energy. And enough with boring flavorless caffeine. It's time to give your caffeine a flavor upgrade with 5 Hour Energy shots. Get the favorites you love or be bold and try something new in store and online at www.5hourenergy.com or Amazon today. And thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcast. And let's talk about this because the Washington Nationals, they are looking for their next GM, and it feels as if that they will be wrapping this thing up maybe in the next week or two. We are that close, and they have actually interviewed the next potential candidate for your next Washington Nationals GM job, and that is assistant GM Eddie Romero. Britt Giroli of The Athletic, MLB National Insider for The Athletic, she reported that the Nationals have been interviewing, and she does expect them to hire a new GM by season's end, and that's kind of their goal right now. And the Nationals have actually just concluded an interview with the Red Sox assistant general manager, Eddie Romero. Eddie Romero is the vice president / assistant GM, and he was named that back in 2018. He has been that since with the Boston Red Sox, and he has overseen oversees international scouting. He has overseen player development since 2018. And if you look at the Red Sox right now, if you look around their ball club, what team has a brighter, younger future than the Boston Red Sox? You could make the case that nobody. Entering this season, they had the number one farm system in baseball. And again, if you look at their active roster right now and the guys that make an impact, all of these guys were via trades or quite frankly just drafted and developed or internationally signed. Like, this would be a huge hire from the Nationals, in my opinion. I have always operated under this. Development and analytics, they kind of have to marry each other. The Nationals have unfortunately not been that kind of organization over the years. So seeing that if they were to go with an organization like the Red Sox with someone with the name of Eddie Romero, I would be absolutely thrilled with the Nationals hiring this guy. And again, looking at their prospects right now, they still have a ton of talent on the way here. You just saw that they called up their number one pitching prospect over the weekend here, Peyton Toll, who has looked really good actually with the Boston Red Sox. And even then, you look down at their farm system. They have Franklin Arias, their number one prospect, who's 19 years old, already in Double-A. He's looking like he could be a star. You've got a couple other guys, like a local kid, Brandon Clark, a left-handed pitcher who's throwing 100 miles per hour here. He could also be another big-name guy coming out of their system. They have been one of the better draft and develop organizations for the past 5+ seasons now. Roman Anthony, check that box. Christian Campbell, check that box. And plenty of other guys as well that they have developed. And by the way, this goes after you have traded away guys like Mookie Betts. You have kind of torn away that piece. You trade away Rafael Devers as well. That has seemingly gone really good for them. Imagine this. You trade away Rafi Devers after you just give him a massive extension. Typically, teams like that might tank. Typically, teams like that might say, you know what? Our work here is done for 2025. Let's check out. They have brought up their prospects. They have continued to win games. They have put themselves in the wild card race. And quite frankly, they have set themselves up now for a huge future in baseball. This is one of the younger, brighter teams in the game. Getting someone who has been one of the architects of that organization for the past few seasons now would be a massive get for this team. And again, it goes into exactly what the Washington Nationals need. So Eddie Romero, sign me up for that at this point. But Britt Giroli also did mention another name to watch. It's unclear if they have interviewed him or if they have any interest, but she did note that people should watch out for Royals assistant GM Scott Sharp. He went to George Washington, and local guy, obviously the Lerner family is very tied in with George Washington University there. So I think that's a name that maybe she is just kind of thrown out there at this point. We don't know. She never said if they interviewed him or not, but it's just a name to watch out for. I'll say this. I would not be thrilled with this hire. Admittedly, I have not heard enough about Scott Sharp. I have not seen enough of what he does, but also, quite frankly, with the Royals itself, they were kind of one of those teams that had a failed rebuild for a long time. And looking at this season with the talent that they have, I'm not sure you can really kind of get me excited about that hire. Maybe the Nationals know something that we don't. Maybe Britt knows something that we don't. Maybe he's an analytical genius. Maybe he has all these different philosophies that simply help prospects turn into the next stars of baseball. But this would not really kind of get me excited. And it's because he comes from an organization that simply has not drafted and developed well. Bobby Witt looks awesome. Jack Caglianone looks awesome. Outside of those two guys who could be the next stars of baseball, and Bobby Witt already is, then okay, yeah, they've done something well there. But there is a bucket of teams that I'm like, if you get a guy from that organization, sign me up tomorrow. And the Royals are simply not on that list for me. Here's the list of teams, and I'm like, I could get excited for anyone from this team. The Boston Red Sox, as we just mentioned with Eddie Romero. The Detroit Tigers and what they have done, the drafting, the developing, the spending, they've set themselves up for a brilliant future. The Cleveland Guardians, a team that has always been in contention. I believe they've actually won like 6 straight games right now and are back in wild card contention. I think only a game and a half back of the Seattle Mariners at this point. They're a team that I would love to get an assistant GM from or a scouting director, whatever it could be. Obviously, the LA Dodgers as well. They are the crown jewel of Major League Baseball as far as developing goes, as far as spending goes, and as far as baseball operations goes. They are the best of the best at everything they do. So if you're going to tell me that, yeah, we're going to hire the assistant GM from them, awesome, sign me up tomorrow. The Tampa Bay Rays, for all the same reasons, drafting, analytics, they are smart, they are forward thinking. And a lot of times this Nationals team kind of gives the vibe that they are kind of backward thinking. They have to kind of backtrack on some things. So the Tampa Bay Rays signed me up for that as well. Last but not least, the Milwaukee Brewers. They have been the revelation of baseball. You lost David Stearns. No, they have not skipped a beat. They are great at developing. They continue to churn out some of the better prospects in baseball. They continue to win. And honestly, diehard baseball fans out there, name 5 Brewers players that are not Christian Yelich and a couple other guys for them. You probably can't. And you know what? That's not a bad thing. They continue to turn out prospects in the best way possible. All those teams, what they have in common, they have developed prospects. They have continued to go out there and hire the best of the best, and they have continued to turn out prospects in the best way possible. The Nationals have not done that for years. So with the Nationals going after Eddie Romero, the Red Sox assistant GM, sign me up for this. Again, the Nationals, I'm sure over the next few days, even the next few hours, you might hear of a couple more names out there, but you want to have someone coming from an analytical driven organization, someone that will bring that philosophy here into DC and hopefully change the trajectory of what this team is. Because quite frankly, what we are talking about here in DC, as Ken Rosenthal said earlier this season, that is a bottom feeder team. That is kind of just what we are at this point. But you can turn things around. And honestly, I have hope for it if they get the right GM hire here in town. But next, let's get into some more GM talk, because the Nationals are expecting over the next few days and potentially next week or two to name their next GM. So who do I think it will be? I'll tell you all about that and more after this. Let me tell you guys about our friends over at Monarch Money. And yes, we have told you that most people cannot name all their financial accounts or even what they are worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. And that's why there is Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives, and if you've put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you, because Monarch does the heavy lifting for you, and you can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without even touching a spreadsheet. You can identify that you aren't saving as much as you thought. Monarch helps you notice an inefficient investment allocation and discover forgotten 401ks from past jobs. So don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use promo code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONMLB. And thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcast. And again, if you have not done so already, look up Locked On Nationals wherever you get your pods, whether it's on Apple, Spotify, and of course, the video version over on YouTube. Again, just look up Locked On Nationals. So now I'm going to make my prediction for who the Nationals will name as their next GM. And at this point in time, I do believe it will be the Cleveland Guardians their club's executive vice president and assistant GM, Matt Foreman. Multiple reasons why. Number one, he checks off the boxes of what you want. An analytical, driven guy who has come from an organization that has simply done that and has done that in the best way possible. I think Matt Foreman will be the guy for this job for those reasons stated why. But also number two, this does not hurt, by the way. He's going to be a little bit cheaper than a guy like an Eddie Romero. He's going to be a little bit cheaper than a guy coming from the Dodgers. He's going to be a heck of a lot cheaper than Eric Neander coming from the Tampa Bay Rays. I think this makes the most sense, and I think that, quite frankly, this would be a great hire for the Washington Nationals. Getting someone who has been with an organization basically his entire career at this point would be a slam dunk for this team. Seeing that what the Guardians have done for the past decade plus, continue to produce talent, continue to win 85 to 90 games each and every season, that is a winning ball club. while they have yet to get over the hump and while they have yet to win a World Series since what, the 80s at this point or the 70s? I mean, it's been a long time in Cleveland. But that is an organization that you cannot attract people to go to Cleveland. Let's be honest. As Joakim Noah once said, who has ever said that they are going to vacation in Cleveland? No one ever. That is a hard place to win, number one. And number two, that is a hard place to just attract anyone to go to. Yet they continue to say, you know what? We don't need free agency because we're not going to spend. We're not the Dodgers. We're not the Red Sox. And heck, we're not even the Chicago Cubs. We cannot spend our money. So what are we going to do? We are going to draft and develop better than everybody else. And that is exactly what they have done. So seeing what the Nationals have done and kind of reading the kind of tea leaves here, I would expect for them to go for that kind of cheaper quote unquote. Does not mean bad, but also doesn't mean that it's great, I guess, for the Nationals. But I could see this happening. And this is kind of at this point, again, on September 18th, my mind could change in an hour from now. But if I were here today telling you who I think the Nationals will hire, I would expect it's going to be Matt Foreman, the Guardians executive vice president and assistant GM. And I think that'd be a really good hire for this Nationals team. So stay tuned here on Locked On Nationals. We will have much more on the Nationals GM search as we continue to try to figure out who will be the next decision maker in town. It's going to come up a lot quicker than a lot of us expect. So, of course, I will catch you guys on the flip side. Enjoy the day off for the Nationals. Have a good one. Go Nats.